Ochelli Effect is sponsored by WallStreetWindow.com and listeners like you.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media, Chuck Ochelli.
April 10, 2023, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. This is the show you were looking for. How do I know that? Because you're hearing me babble on about it. Anyway, it is Monday, Moon Day, the first broadcast day of the week at Ochelli.com, but we haven't been live on Mondays too often, so I know there's only a small audience on the live stream. And for those of you catching it further on down the stream via your fondle slab of choice, your applicable application, your podcatcher du jour, you don't care anyway, because you'll pick it up when you feel like it. And welcome to the show, no matter who you are, where you are, when you are. Anyway, I have a singular guest on this Monday, and I'm really, really happy because he was on an episode of Get Mad where things went wrong. My computer crashed in the midst of recording Chris's show and broadcasting it to you guys. You got half a show on the live stream, and then the weird product was put out later because Chris had to record by himself the second half because I couldn't get my computer to restart. And that's because it was done. So anyway, that was somewhere around the beginning of March. And it's funny, too, because we had breaking news on that particular podcast. Now, what do I mean by this? There's been a lot of speculation about RFK Jr. We've seen this on social media recently. And, oh, hell, I didn't even get to my guest yet, did I? But I am getting to him with this. Eric Jackman was on that show. Now, if you don't know who he is, I'm going to tell you right now, just put in Eric Jackman. Yes, it is exactly like it sounds. And maybe go get Trump in that search as well. Ask for Trump or Trump impersonator, because that is absolutely hilarious. And indeed, Trump even pulled him up on stage one time, which you can see on YouTube, and I love it. I mean, I know I do my crappy Trump impression every now and then, but this guy's an actual comedian, so he's funny. I just, I got a face for radio, so looks aren't everything. That's the only place I'm funny. But this guy's actually funny. And also stellar Alex Jones impressions. we might at some point have to do dueling Alex Jones on this show if I can convince Eric to stick with me. But back to the story I was telling. And I do want him to tell you where you can go to see those clips. A lot of other stuff he does. He's got a radio show. He's got a podcast. He's got all kinds of stuff out there, videos. But he was talking on the show and he said, RFK Jr., I just saw him in New Hampshire. And he just told me he's running. And all you guys caught up on it later where he's filing with the FEC and this and that. Oh, look, Robert Jeff. Yeah. And I'm interested in an RFK Jr. run, and not because I completely, lionize the Kennedys or anything like that. But here's the question in my mind for anybody. When you take a look at the two fossils that we might have running on the GOP and Democrat side of the equation, okay, neither one of which I'm a fan of, tell me you wouldn't prefer RFK Jr. even with his problems. Tell me you wouldn't. I know I do. Anyway, I've given away part of it, and I'm done talking because I need to ask Eric how he's doing and get into this because you broke that story here and nobody paid attention, Eric. I'm sorry.
Wow, Chuck, that's quite an intro, man. I hope I can live up to all that.
Oh, well,
to the hype and the prestige bestowed upon me here in the Ochelli Effect. But yeah, first of all, man, thanks for having me on. I know we've been trying to put this together for a little while, but we locked in tonight. So RFK Jr. gave a speech at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College, which is a tried and true stop for anyone who's serious about running for president, and they're going to compete in the New Hampshire primary and really be in the process and actually give it a go. So he was invited up there to speak about a possible campaign and what his platform would look like. And he also, what really drew my attention is he came to the defense of the New Hampshire primary, a primary which his uncle, John F. Kennedy, won 63 years ago in 1960 when he ran for president. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, his father, Bobby Kennedy, ran that campaign, so he had experience here in New Hampshire, working on his brother Jack's presidential campaign. So there's a real affinity there that the Kennedy family has for New Hampshire and our primary here and the process. So I was really impressed by that. It was nice to hear someone of his profile come to the defense of the New Hampshire primary. He kind of penned an open letter to the National Democratic Party and Brandon and all those people of that ilk, telling them that this is a tradition that should not be disrupted. The New Hampshire primary should stay first. The citizens up there are very engaged in the political process. They pay attention. They take it seriously. They vet the candidates. They go out and they meet them, more than once. Sometimes I'll go and see the same candidate 3 or 4 times just because I didn't like the way the picture came out the first time I saw him,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool thing. If you're into politics and a fan of the political process and that whole system, the New Hampshire is really bar none. I mean, there's no place like it. So he spoke about that. He spoke for about an hour. And then he took a couple questions. And one of the questions, point blank, a guy at a table behind me said, "Hey, Mr. Kennedy, I mean, you're here in New Hampshire. You're not just here because you like the snow in March. You're obviously here because you're seriously thinking about running for president. So what are you going to do? Are you running?" And he said, "Hey," Bobby said, "Well, I've cleared the first hurdle. My wife here, Cheryl Hines, the actress everyone knows from the Larry David show there.
Hey, Curb Your Enthusiasm, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm. He pointed to her. She was there with him. He said, she's already signed off on it, so I cleared the first hurdle if I do it. And he said, yes, I am seriously thinking about running for president, challenging President Biden in the Democratic primary, which drew loud applause. People were very excited about that. I was very excited about that. And, so he wrapped up those questions, and then he came down onto the floor and had copies of his books, which I got a couple that he was, they were given away to everybody there. And he sat and signed them for people, and I posed for a photo with him and just introduced myself and said, "Hey, Mr. Kennedy, great to meet you." Told him who I was. "Hey, I'd love to see you run for president. I think you would be able to raise a lot of issues that the other candidates aren't going to be talking about. And I think you're a very important voice in American politics." So
right. Now, a little bit of context here. The reason why Bobby Kennedy Jr. needed to write that open letter is because there are proposals among the Democratic establishment to try and move the first primary in the presidential selection process. You already hear my sarcasm, don't you? In the presidential selection process, to another state to give it a different look. And New Hampshire is the first place where these guys go to put themselves, out there, to actually test themselves. The New Hampshire primary is the first test. And that's the way it's been for quite a while. And you pointed out all the good points to it, but the fact that this is going on, this is what RFK Jr. was speaking about and was interested in, is don't change this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't just cater to the winds of wokeness and the woke mob and saying New Hampshire's not diverse enough and we just a small state. Why do we get to have such an oversized role in this whole process? So he spoke eloquently about why New Hampshire should remain first in the nation and that it is special, and that if that tradition is lost or erased, our campaigns are just going to turn into even more of a beauty pageant selection process where you just see candidates who have the most money touch down on the tarmac for an hour, give a speech, wave, do big interviews with national media, and then book it to the next one.
Right.
And it will lose that touch of everyday Americans, average Americans, people who are not rich, people like me. I have a bachelor's degree, and I've paid attention for the last 20 years. Those are two of the things that I have that I use to vet and use discernment. So how would otherwise a guy like me who's not a rich person, I'm not connected to the powerful and the elite, how would I be able to get into the same room with these people and rub shoulders and ask them real questions and influence their campaigns and be in the mix if it weren't not for the New Hampshire primary? So,
well, right. And look, I've lived in a couple of tiny states for decent amounts of time. I lived in New York briefly, but that's a whole different animal trying to live in New York. There's no city like it in the world. But living in New Jersey and then living in Georgia, trust me, two different diametrically opposed political persuasions going on here. But the thing is, even in a small state, you can't get near these candidates. Come on, you're lucky if you can figure out when one of their rallies is going to happen or whatever. I mean, Trump had a couple of rallies here, and I knew people who went. I mean, I am not a Trump guy. I can't stand him. Look, I know what a real estate hustler from Queens looks like. Again, I'm from Jersey. I lived in New York. I knew who this guy was to start with, so I don't understand the fascination, the support, none of it. Same time, what is Biden except somebody who is clueless at this point? And here we go. To me, it was like, and has been for a long time, a bunch of, look, it doesn't matter what you pick off of the menu because you didn't get to pick the menu. You know what I'm saying? So they give you a menu every year. Here's your two real choices. And then, there's maybe a cast of characters that got in here or there. There's some libertarians, possibly Green Party, whatever. But nobody else is going to win except one of these two. So don't waste your vote, right? Go ahead and just go with one of these political elite groups. Because either way, look, you want to support the billionaires or you want to support the wannabe billionaires on Wall Street. And by the way, they've traded places, the right and the left on this a couple of times. But the truth is, which elite class do you want to support? Who would you like to rule you? That's the question to me, and that has been that way. I don't know. I think I'm similar age to you, maybe, but I just turned 51. But, man, the last time I got fooled, there was a guy named Clinton on the bill. Right? On the bill. Yeah, a bill. Sure, because we paid for it, but he was out there for selection in the 90s, okay? And that was my first presidential vote, allegedly. And I voted for Clinton, right? Mm-hmm. Why? Because he seemed at least human. But other than that, I've been disillusioned ever since. And I've seen nothing but repeated wars, feeding the military-industrial complex, giving lip service to people as opposed to actual solutions, giving out goodies. And by the way, we've seen plenty of goodies given out recently to everybody when all sorts of elections are going on. Nobody wants to complain about that somebody's buying something. Oh, but by the way, somebody who was the Secretary of State over here ran for governor. Yeah, they did that in Georgia a couple of years ago, and you guys said nothing. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's all manipulated. It's all a mess. Tell you something strange, though. RFK Jr. runs, I might have to register to vote again. I haven't registered in a long time. Okay? Because all I got to say is, look, he's got his problems. I'm not going to say I agree with 100% of everything he has to say, but he asks the right questions, and he's clearly not just in the pocket of one of these two, supposed sides of the equation. I say supposed again because I see it as a one-party system. Yeah. Okay. Now, I know I've gotten all serious with you, and I'm like, listen, I'm totally disillusioned with this whole thing, but what did I say? If a different entity comes in and doesn't get Ron Paul'd or doesn't get Bernie Sanders, however you want to use that as a verb, kneecapped one way or another.
Yeah, Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, that or or what happened to Cynthia McKinney even. Because she ran for president too, or at least tried. All right. So, yeah, if that doesn't happen, that would be a hell of a thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I hear everything you're saying, Chuck, and I don't think your sentiments are unfounded at all. The thing that gives me the hope about RFK Jr. is all the right people hate him. And when I say the right people hate him, the people that we are against, the big pharma people, Pfizer, Fauci, the military-industrial complex, bought and paid Mockingbird media shills in the media they were instantly on script when it came out that Kennedy had put out his FEC. He filed with the FEC to run for president. They were a chorus of jackals. They were all lockstep in line with anti-vaxxer, fringe, outlier, conspiracy theorists, even saying Steve Bannon convinced him to run to be a disruptor. They all had their talking points ready to go. So when I see that to people who are more aware or who are awake or who are tapped into another stream of consciousness, that's a signal to us that this guy is doing and saying the right things for the betterment of humanity, the side that we come down on, the side that we want to see prevail.
Well, see, that's it. And, and some people would say, look, this guy's on the wrong side of the green agenda. This guy's on the wrong side. And you may or may not agree with I don't think I've ever asked you or found out what your thoughts are about, going green and this and that. But I got to tell you, even if that's true, still, this is a guy who's thinking out loud, who is taking the time to look at things and not just getting his marching orders from one of the greater corporate supporters. Now, could that change if he starts to run? I don't know. But that's the thing. I know what I'm getting with the rest of this crap. I know what I'm getting with the, with the Trump and, the indictment, right? Past 10 days. Let's just touch on it real fast. I don't want to hover on it. But come on. All this is a great campaign stunt to help him out and to help him raise money. End of story. That's it. Okay. Yeah. It's not going to accomplish, even if you want him nailed, it's not going to accomplish anything. But, and again, Biden, well, what about Biden and the Hunter Biden laptop? You know what? Maybe there's something to that too. Maybe that is all about the corruption. And, I wouldn't be surprised. How does anybody remain in mainstream politics, national politics, for 4 decades without getting corrupt? I mean, you'd have to be Superman and take a look at Biden. He is not Kal-El, okay? He's not coming from Krypton. This is not the dude. All right? I know they tried to sell, Obama with the Superman cape on him and all that. That's why I'm bringing it up. But at least he was marketable, Obama. Okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you could speak very well, and he was eloquent. Yeah, no, Brandon is completely bought and sold and on the take and compromised. Everyone knew the laptop was real, and the New York Post put it out, and you saw that Twitter shut that down and censored it.
Yep.
That told anyone with any iota of intelligence everything you needed to know about it. And then they all sent out the CIA people and all their assets in the media, like your Brennans of the world and Clapper and all them, to say, no, this Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinfo. It's like, no, it's not. I looked at some of what's on there, and that's all legitimate stuff. That's not Russian disinformation. Mm-hmm. So they follow that script there. But you know what, Chuck? I think more and more people are getting hip to their game, and they're realizing how they run their influence operations and how they seek to muddy the waters and confuse people and just fire hose us with so much BS,
right?
That by the time, we can process what's happened, we're getting hosed down again for the next operation. So, look, what you said about Kennedy, I'm with you, man. No one, we're not going to agree with anybody 100% on anything. You asked me about the environmental stuff. I think a lot of that is overblown and another cult and another religion, just like the religion of COVID.
Right.
And the vaccines. I think it's another scare thing. And, you saw Greta Thunberg had to delete some tweets that were saying, the world's going to end in 5 years. And the 5 years came, and oh my God, the world didn't end. Mm-hmm. And look no further than a grifter like Al Gore with his climate change grift that he has. So, look, we shouldn't pollute. And I point to the stuff Robert Kennedy has done to protect, like, riverways, stuff we can actually do here on Earth that has an impact on ecosystems and the water and our air and that sort of thing. Those are all reasonable stuff that I think most Americans would agree on. We shouldn't be polluting our water supplies. We shouldn't let chemical plants have unregulated runoff into what, could be an aquifer or a drinking supply for people. So I think that's all reasonable, great stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you, man. And the Trump thing is total bread and circus. It's good for Trump. It's good for him. I mean, he was saying, people were saying, look, I hope, Chuck, I want to get handcuffed. I want to do the perp walk. I want to get photographed. Okay. It's going to be the greatest perp walk in the history of perp walks. Believe me. Okay.
It'll be great. There'll be death and destruction too.
It'll be the most beautiful mugshot that anyone's ever seen. Okay. Not even horse-faced Stormy Daniels could make a mugshot that good. Believe me, I know from experience. But I never met her.
I wasn't aware that she was horse-faced, but okay, good.
Yeah, he calls her horse-face. So, that is all just bread and circus and doesn't mean anything. It's akin to what John Edwards did with his campaign, where he paid off the videographer who he got pregnant while his wife was dying of cancer. It's just a campaign finance violation, but it's peanuts compared to the stuff. Like, if I was in charge, I want people to look at how Trump, drone bombed and assassinated Soleimani and almost started World War III with Iran.
Yeah, well, how about that?
We're all these idiots who were hair on fire. Oh my God, the indictment's coming. We finally got the orange man. They don't even know who General Soleimani was.
Yeah, right.
They can't even understand the implications of what that. I'll tell you what, Chuck, that's the most scared I was in Trump's 4 years. When he dropped the Moab in Syria or wherever the hell that was, Afghanistan, they don't even know who they killed with that thing.
I think they did it in Iraq, right? Because they lured him to a meeting in Iraq, which,
Soleimani.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they got him at an airport. So I tell people, I'm like, all right, just think of it in this terms. Imagine if one of our most beloved generals, like just not even most beloved, but a well-known general like Wesley Clark.
That's who I was thinking
of. Was at Logan
of.
Airport in Boston. Right. And Iran sent a drone over and killed him and other people in an attack.
Yep.
What would the United States do? What would our response be? So.
Well, but there you go. And look, there are plenty of people that were dislodged from the Iraqi superstructure. Well, you know, because let's not forget that wonderful war that we prosecuted under false pretenses, right? I mean, excuse me, wasn't that the destruction of a sovereign nation under false pretenses, no matter whose narrative you listen to?
Part of the point I made, Chuck, to so many people when they wanted my thoughts on the indictment, I said we didn't get one indictment for Bush and the neocons for what they did to Iraq. So give me a clown horn and let me honk at you if you think this indictment's serious. Yeah,
right. And then what is the other? But don't worry, there's more coming, because if you think for a second that they are seriously going to prosecute him in the state of Georgia, think again. See, there is stuff that happened in public where people should have taken action, where people should have been obligated to take action. They did not. Okay, and so this is ridiculous. I mean, I could point to, what about China? Yeah, okay, well, what about all those wonderful patents that, were given to the Trump family while he's in office, including his daughter, who was a special advisor to the president with 0 qualifications. I mean, I guess making handbags lets you know how to, what was it she was running? Child care services. Did we get any of that, by the way? I don't think we did. All right. Anyway, I'm just asking. And everybody goes, "Oh, he hates Trump. That's what the problem." No, I don't hate Trump. I'm tired of the system.
It's called nuance, Chuck. You have what's called nuance and discernment, and we're losing that big time. I'm with you, man. And look, this happens to my brother and I when we applaud during the 4 years when he met with Rocket Man and did the Walk to Remember at the DMZ. Over there, they did the Macarena together. Yep. I love that. I thought that was incredible, because I'm all about diplomacy, and even if it's going to be a little weird, you got to throw in Dennis Rodman wearing a wedding dress. I'm all about that if it stops a war.
Okay, Dennis Rodman. Oh man, you know what? I love that because Dennis Rodman went over there financed by Potcoin, right? Potcoin in a dress to go play basketball with Kim Jong-un.
He may not have been wearing a dress, Chuck, but we'll say he was. But anyways, the point is that those are the things about Trump that I like. Trump, the character, I like that he just went over there and bucked all the foreign policy establishment and said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go meet with the guy. Right. And that's going to piss all of you off. And I like that. And I sang his praises publicly, and I got a lot of flack for that. They're like, oh, you're a blind Trump worshiper and you love him. But then when he bombed Soleimani and he dropped that Moab, I criticized him intensely. And I said, this is foolish. He's being led by the neocons. He's got John Bolton in his ear. This is stupid. And like you said, Chuck, people will say one way or the other, you love him or you hate him. And it's like, well, what happened to nuance and having critical thinking? Well,
see, and that's the thing. And then they go, well, we didn't get in any new wars. I'm like, yeah, we didn't get out of any either.
He maintained big time.
Oh, he maintained, exactly. He maintained the status quo with one weird exception, which is where he moved our troops. And of course, they were recently struck in Syria, right? Because all of a sudden, everybody forgot about this, but our troops were moved to an area of Syria where it was like, they're not going to be involved in the battles anymore. They're going to be off the field, and they're just going to guard the oil. Now, I remember that being the basic narrative and going, what the hell just happened? Because, look, I am not a pro-war guy at all. I would really like to see everybody go home, and this is the problem with the Ukrainian situation. I'd like to see the people that live in a place determine their own futures, regardless of what that is. Oh, but you support the Nazis. I am so sick. You know what? That's the funny thing is I've got a minor conflict with something that you got involved in, and I'll tell you about it. And it does have to do with war and all that stuff. And I do want to get away from being so serious with you, but I'm going to take a break, and we're going to do a little more serious here. But I want to organize us a little bit, because I want to get to a bunch of things, and I'm telling you, if we don't get to it today, in the future, we have to do dueling Alex Jones. Okay, so stick around. Eric Jackman is my guest, and we're going to get to where it is you can find all of his stuff and all that online. I want you guys to go check it out, especially the comedy stuff, which you only got a small taste of so far. The Ochelli Effect will continue after this. WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
You're listening to the Ochelli.com radio network.
Do you like history? Real history that you were never taught in schools? Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia by author Mike Swanson with new documentation never seen before that'll open your eyes to events that led up to this. Why? The Vietnam War, nuclear bombs and nation building in Southeast Asia, 1945 through 1961. Get your copy today at Amazon.com. Why? The Vietnam War by author Mike Swanson.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in the truth about the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, what do you want to know?
Judy Baker's wild claim, Oswald girlfriend, she knew Ruby and Barry, cancer weapons. Really?
I imagine I could claim I have 4 wheels. It doesn't make me a wagon, but okay.
Oswald was on the kill team and trying to prevent the murder of John Kennedy. Come on now. Has a real expert on the JFK assassination looked into her claims?
Go to Amazon.com. Enter Judith Baker in her own words. You'll get results for a digital copy of a book where Walt Brown utilizes her own words and the known evidence in the case to get at, well, a different perspective, let's say. You can get Judith Barry Baker in her own words from the author himself, signed if you request it by contacting Dr. Brown at KIASJFK@AOL.com. It's a fun book and it actually dissects the many, many fantastic claims. Judith Barry Baker in her own words.
Thank you for all the great information.
The views expressed by callers, co-hosts, or anyone else who happens to get on the air at Ochelli.com do not necessarily reflect the views of Ochelli.com or Chuck Ochelli, and we are not responsible for any stupidity which might ensue. Thank you.
Ochelli.com.
Revelation through conversation.
Get ready for the Ochelli Effect.
Second segment of the Ochelli Effect here on a Monday. Yeah, it's the 10th of April as I speak, but who knows when you're hearing this. Anyway, Eric Jackman is with me. We got a little taste of the Trump impression, but before we go into anything else, and I've got something of interest where I don't know if we're going to line up on the same side. So far we have, but I don't know if we're going to line up on the same side in the next talk, because I no longer feel like holding anything back. All right? So we're going to get right into it. But before we do that, can you tell people where to go to get a hold of you, to see your stuff? I know you got the YouTube channel. I hate promoting YouTube, especially since they kicked me and my network off. But anyway, people can go there and see your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. So yeah, I'm on YouTube at Jackman Radio, and we did just finally create a Rumble page, just after seeing so many of my friends, and I'm sorry that happened to your channel, just get burned and lose tons of videos. So I at least will have these backed up on Rumble.
Right.
So yeah, if you like Rumble, it's Jackman Radio on there. And then Podbean is jackmanradio.podbean.com. And that's, we're on Spotify at Jackman Radio. And then the main social pages I use if you want to say hi to me or get in touch, I'm on Twitter at Jackman Radio and Instagram. I have 2 accounts on Instagram. My personal one is Senator Jackman, and then the other one's Jackman Radio. And if people want to support us and like what we do, we're on Patreon, patreon.com/Jackman Radio. Working on building up those patrons so I can, keep traveling and doing cool interviews and going to cool events. So those are all the best places to reach us.
And that is the key thing. Look, as somebody who's doing independent media, if you support them, they will stick around. And if you don't, it makes it a lot harder for them to do so. So always keep that in mind. Anyway, speaking of independent media, and yeah, I got blocked there, got removed. I had a YouTube channel since 2008, right? And they took it away last year. Finally, I've had it taken away more than once, but I was able to win appeals processes before. This time, not so lucky. I would advise anybody, by the way, go to Odyssey, go to BitChute, go to Rumble. Plenty of people that have been exiled from YouTube are available there. And who knows, maybe Eric Jackman will get himself exiled at some point. Sounds to me like he might have some of those sentiments that got me exiled from YouTube. The whole, don't question Big Pharma. What did I say? Don't trust the companies that can't figure out how not to put cancer-causing agents into talcum powder. Oh, that would be Johnson & Johnson. Oops, did I say it out loud again? Yeah, I did. All right. Anyway, stuff like that. I got kicked off for. I was also cyberbullying Jeffrey Epstein, even though he was dead. And I was encouraging self-harm by playing clips of President Kennedy speaking about Vietnam. I don't know how that works, but apparently I did it. Anyway. Let's put all that aside. It is a strange world. Look, when I gotta sit and go through my news feed and see the Dalai Lama is asking a small child to suck on his tongue, I'm saying we live in a strange place and time, Eric. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, that was, Trump said something very funny. He said, when I saw that, I was disgusted. I called my friend Xi, and I said, Xi, you gotta get that Dalai Lama. He's a predator. He's a disaster. He's out there playing chutes and ladders and licking children's tongues. It's disgusting. So Xi's on the case, and we will be doing a lot more than freeing Tibet. We're going to free the tongue, if you know what I mean.
Wow. Is he going to offer him a beautiful piece of chocolate cake, or was that the guy from Japan? I forget.
Abe, I think him and Abe had chocolate cake down at Mar-a-Lago, and then Rocket Man, I think he brought him a Elton John album, Rocket Man. He brought that to him.
He might have.
And hopefully he brought him some Five Guys, because I don't think they have that over there in North Korea.
I don't think so. I do know that they fell in love. We fell in love.
Well, look, Chuck, he wrote me a letter that you'd love to read. Believe me, you'd love to read that letter. It's the most beautiful love letter. Okay? It's like that movie, The Notebook. So romantic, so beautiful.
I love this.
We were adversaries. And then he wrote me a letter and we fell in love. We did. Fell in love.
Tell me you guys can't laugh at that. That is the best. You know what? If you feel like cutting me any sort of little, I know you're a guy who deserves to get paid. I can't afford to pay you. But if you ever want to cut me some rambling, Trump thing and just send it to me, I will find a use for it. Because I love your impression. It's so great.
I'd be happy to cut something for you, man. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't care. Do a thing for Chris's show or I don't care. I will find a use for it if you send me something because it's so good. I mean, listen to the nuance. It is freaking impression. It is so good. I can hear the stuffed up nose and everything. Like you've nailed that part of it. Like the tired Trump, not the energetic Trump. You know, the energetic Trump. Yeah. I'll be honest. Here's my critique. Okay. Your energetic Trump, not as good. But when you do tired Trump, it is perfect.
Right.
It's just perfect.
When he's energetic and he's racing and he's talking about China and Russia and Mexico and Honduras and he's really amped up and the Adderall's kicking in. And then when he's been on, Trump Force 1 for 15 hours and he hasn't gotten his KFC yet, he's like, we will rebuild the wall and we'll bring America back. And we'll be bigger, stronger, and better than ever. And lately, Trump's dentures kind of are a little loose these days. So you got to incorporate that in with the impression. You have to talk like you have loose dentures. So you have to be like, things are not going so well for Sleepy Joe. Just so sad, Chuck. So sad.
You know what? You're not too far from a Pelosi impression right there. Anyway,
let me go get a gallon of cheap wine.
Oh man. Anyway, we could go stranger than that, but let me get back to something serious real fast because I'll just spend the rest of the time poking a stick at you and seeing if I can get you to say stuff in Trump's voice. But anyway, what I did say I was going to talk about something serious, and you recently participated in, and you covered this on Chris's show already, but I had to go back over it with you because I was so disappointed to see Rage Against the War Machine. Now, I understand the sentiment. I understand why you went. I understand why a lot of people were like, oh, this is good. There were some great people that participated in that, people that no matter what, I don't care what the movement says about them. I don't care what alt media says about them. I love Ron Paul. I love Cynthia McKinney, even if she's mad at me still for something that happened a couple of years ago. I think she might have forgotten by now. I hope so. But I love her. I really do. I would have voted for her. And tried to, actually, at one point. But anyway, she was available on presidential ballots at one point. Anyhow, I think she ran Green Party.
2008, her and Rosa Clemente were the Green Party ticket.
That's it. I think that was the last time I was actually registered. No, not true. I did register again. And I've only ever registered as an independent, and the only party I've ever registered for is Libertarian. But that might be a whole other issue. Anyway, so you can see why I would love to see a combination of Cynthia McKinney and Ron Paul running. Okay, maybe people will understand why I like RFK Jr. right there if you figure that part out. But all right, Rage Against the War Machine. I saw, and here's personal disclosure. I worked for one of the sponsors for a hot 8 days. And the reason why I worked for that sponsor for a hot 8 days is because they tried to control what I was saying on their air. It was TNT Radio. And I really tried not to say anything about it, but they've sort of blocked me from doing things and all kinds of weird little things that have gone on. They did actually pay me for the time I worked for them. But they got really weird with me about not being pro-Russian. Okay. Their sentimentality and where their money is coming from and all the things that they have accomplished in a very short amount of time where they built a facility and all this other stuff, I'm sorry, my radar is up and I'm saying what is going on here? And I was even willing to try and work for them under the premise that they believed that they wanted, truly alternative information, that they wanted people that were going to speak differently than anything on the mainstream. They wanted to be even outside of the alternative. I said, okay, my kind of people. I met with them, did all that. My mistake, though, was to bring on somebody who was living in Ukraine, who was telling the story about what they were going through, and not just screaming, oh, we got to get the Nazis out of here and pro-Russia stuff. And that was my big trouble. And I never recovered from that over there, and I got all kinds of weird things that went on. They were one of the sponsors. That's one problem. The next thing is, with this rally. I saw some of the sentimentality, and look, I am not pro-war in any way, shape, or form. However, I've got a problem with a larger nation coming down on a smaller one. And if you got to take a side, okay, if there is no choice, because we can't just get people to behave. We can't just get people to stop invading. We can't just get people to stop shooting. I hate the use of the military. I've said it so many times. I am disgusted by the way the guys that we send into harm's way are treated before, during, after. Okay? I am disgusted by it all. But at the same time, I cannot be on the side of, well, let Russia do what it wants to do either. This is not something, and I saw that with the sentiment, with some of the people that were involved with that Rage Against the War Machine rally. Also, kind of hijacking Rage Against the Machine, although they've been a little weird in recent years. I didn't like it. I love Cynthia McKinney. I love Ron Paul. I like you, Eric.
Well, thank you. I hope so. You have me on your show.
Yeah, no, I like it. Listen, if I hated you, I'd have you on too, though. I would. But I don't hate you. I don't hate you. I like you. You're a cool guy. I agree with a whole lot of stuff you got to say. But the thing is, I see a lot of people that have already been sidelined by the establishment that were invited and would obviously go. And I worry about them getting co-opted into things that may have a different agenda than what we think. If it's about peace, if it's about anti-war, I'm with you. But when I see a different agenda being fed, when I see the suspicion of some of the groups, and by the way, I brought up the one that I had a personal interaction with, but there were others involved that put money into that thing. Okay, and as soon as I see money going into an allegedly grassroots thing, again, I'm old enough to remember a bunch of things that happened, including Occupy Wall Street, including whatever happened to Antifa, everybody. Notice, when you have anarchists wearing uniforms, what does that mean? That usually means feds. But anyway, pay no attention to that. A leaderless organization, a communication hub that was Antifa, well, that was useful for a little bit, not currently. And I watched the manipulation of people's legitimate sentiments over and over again and having them swept into things. Yeah, I'm leery. Especially if something like that popped up. Now, I've just thrown a whole bunch of criticisms and suspicions at you, and I don't even have foundation for some of them, except my gut. What are your thoughts about that? And again, I'm kind of attacking something that you felt good about participating in, you participated in, and, it's not personal to you. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Hey, man, I can only speak for myself. I paid out of my own pocket to be there. With a little bit of money I make on Patreon from my listeners and my fans and supporters. And again, I can't thank all of you enough for that. So as far as other groups and where their money came from, and that would have to be a whole audit. And I haven't done that, and I'm not really interested in doing that. But to me, when I spoke, I said this feels kind of like a family reunion because Dennis Kucinich was there, Ron Paul was there.
I didn't mention Kucinich. I'm sorry. I really should have, because there's another guy I have a great deal of respect for that I remain with that respect at this point. But again, marginalized just like Paul and McKinney. Excuse me.
Well, that's it. Yeah, all of these national, Jill Stein, I have a lot of respect for Jill Stein. These are national figures who have been in the fight, for some of them for decades. You look at a Ron Paul and a Kucinich, they rose to the halls of power in Congress. And when they were in Congress, we can all look at how they voted on things and where their rhetoric was. And often, I would say the majority of the time, their votes matched their rhetoric. And Ron Paul always said, my door's wide open. Lobbyists don't even bother with me. They know what my vote's going to be. They don't even bother coming to my office. Right. And Kucinich was the same way. So when those guys got involved with the rally and I saw they were going to be there, and I know Dan McAdams, who's Ron Paul's right-hand man and runs the Ron Paul Institute. These are all stalwarts of what is left of any kind of inkling of an anti-war movement in the United States.
Right, and Cynthia McKinney, for the record, literally put herself in harm's way.
The flotilla.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about.
No, you want to talk guts, man? Yeah, I've had McKinney on my show, and she's a figure who I admire greatly. She's she's a firebrand, and she gets flack from everybody. So when I saw those figures who were speaking, Dan McAdams, Scott Horton, Max Blumenthal, these are all great people on foreign policy. And like you said, man, about anybody, I can find plenty of stuff that we're not going to be in agreement about, and that we're going to have our disagreements and arguments and debates, and that's fine. That's healthy. I welcome that, and I like that. We don't want to all agree on everything all the time. But overall, I was happy with how it went. It was a very well-run event, and it was nice to see the Libertarian Party and the People's Party put aside their differences and have their national leadership come together to put this event on. Because outside of this, who else is doing something like this? Who else can get the little bit of media coverage that it got? Who could get thousands of people to come to Washington?
Right.
I'm not seeing really any other games in town. Now, what you're saying about funding and the TNT thing, I did someone's show on TNT. I didn't run into any problems like that. I can't speak to anything of what you said. I mean, if that was your experience, man, that's your experience, and that's a bummer. But speaking for me, I did a show on there. I was asked to be a guest on one of their shows, and I was, not a host, a guest, but I wasn't censored. I wasn't told there's something you can't say, you can say. We want you to present this point of view. So, as far as that goes, that's my experience with that. But yeah, nothing's going to be 100% clean, man, in any of this stuff.
See,
and
I
know about COINTELPRO.
Right.
I know how movements are infiltrated and destroyed from within, and the people who do that kind of stuff are shrewd, and they're calculating, and they're killers. So they've thought of every possible way to corrupt something, and I'm not naive to that. Right. But being there and being in the mix and being part of it, man, I felt something energizing, inspiring, and I just felt compelled to get out from behind my computer, drive 10 hours down to D.C. and go march on the White House and speak my mind.
And it should be done. It should be done. And this is the thing, a super important point in case somebody missed it there. Who else is doing it? There is no anti-war movement. Okay, that's the thing. There has not been for a long time. Yeah. There's a reason why we were in Afghanistan longer than we were in Vietnam. There's a reason, because there was no resistance. None. Now, look, some people go, well, look, the body bags didn't come back as much, and that's why. Yeah, I get that part, and I do, and I still say that somebody should answer to the crime that was Vietnam. I really do. I have very personal reasons for that. I've discussed it. But the thing is, here we go again. There is no anti-war movement, because anybody who could have been the progenitor of that, anybody who could have risen to national prominence, guess what happens to them? Somebody comes in, hijacks what they're doing, and derails them. Every single time. And here's the thing. Half of that dais that you just mentioned, I know for a fact were intentionally hijacked. I mean, for a fact. Look, I'm not saying that the guy that's running the Ron Paul Institute was in on this, but you do know there were people that came into that campaign who all of a sudden did some pretty strange things and pop up in some other places later that I can only determine that they were part of the reason why he was derailed. Okay? Cynthia McKinney, same thing. I mean, her first mistake, saying something about 9/11. But, later on, what else did she do? Yeah, she took her own points of view, spoke against Israel, things like that. And, you can't do that. No. Especially a little black girl. Yeah, no. Not going to happen. And yeah, I think that was racist too, but that was only a small part of the motivator. They needed to shut her down because she could have been successful. And they needed to shut Kucinich down because he could have been successful. And Ron Paul was successful, but only just so far. And unfortunately, you're right. This is the last remnants of anybody who could be anti-war that still has that legacy attached to them, where their actions did speak, where they weren't compromised, when it would have been very easy for them to have been bought. And that's what the problem is. Now, does that mean that the whole thing that went on there is clean? Like you said, nobody's clean. Nothing is entirely clean. I get that too. But it's a mixed feeling I had about it. And I got to tell you, man, it was like, wow, I really wish there was a clean grassroots thing. But I don't know if apathy has set in or if it's, really people are literally, some people talk about Americans being dumbed down. It's not entirely without its merit, that statement. There's a lot going on here. So,
well, sorry, go ahead.
No, but by all means, I wanted you to pick up right there. Please.
Yeah, well, it's a mix of all those things, man, because your average American is working 1 million hours a week, and then throw in if they have a family, a wife and kids, a job, in-laws, commitments, other things they got to do. Where in that week do they have time to look deeply into anything?
Right.
Other than if they can get a few minutes to zonk out on their couch with a Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light in their hand watching the Tube, with their nice rainbow beer. And when you turn that tube on, you're getting a programming and a brainwashing from that thing. And it's a mind-numbing agent. That's what it exists for. So that's what we're up against. We're up against that. We're up against 24/7 disinfo, Mockingbird, legacy media, intelligence agency, news cycle, outrage machine. It's an outrage echo chamber machine, and they've done a great job of capturing a lot of people's attention and really turning it into a 20-second TikTok attention span. And something crazy might hit the airwaves for a minute like this. I'm looking into this thing about, this is explosive out of the Bulldog down in Florida, where it's pretty much proven and documented that the CIA was spying on the FBI and thwarting them from doing anything about the first 2 hijackers that entered America for the 9/11 plot. Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi were known. They were known to be here, and it's pretty much proven or out there or implied that the CIA was looking to flip these guys and have them become spies for the CIA,
right,
to have people inside of Al-Qaeda. And that was a blip. There's like 1 or 2 publications who cover it. My friend Adam Fitzgerald, who I think is one of the best living 9/11 researchers in the whole world, is doing the work and carrying the flame for the stuff. But if you just told that little nugget that I just told you to your average person, your average citizen in America, they'd look at you with a blank stare and they wouldn't know what the hell you were talking about. And it's not totally their fault. It's not totally their fault.
Adam's been on this show before, and a little controversy when he comes on, I'll tell you. Even among 9/11 people, little controversial. Adam Fitzgerald. Also, a shout out to John Gold, who is again kind of an outlier at this point. And here we go. That is still an issue. We still live in the post 9/11 reality, and the fact is, no matter any way you slice it, we were not told the truth about what occurred there. Okay, I mean, unless you honestly believe that a couple of guys with a couple of box cutters took over some planes and did. Look, I am not one of those guys who buys any of that crap. I leave it open because I'm not entirely read in on all of it, but that is some wild stuff when you got the CIA, which, by the way, this is their business. This is something that they do. I've gone over this stuff on this show, about the assassination guide and how it is they run terrorist operations. There's a guidebook for it. That they wrote in the 50s, folks. That was written, in the late 50s, like right at the inception of the CIA, allegedly.
Well, I mean, look, man, this is like same with anti-war faction being fractured and kind of at odds with each other. When you look into events like 9/11, or there's research communities that spread up around these events, those are all infected and co-opted with disinfo and agents and provocateurs and COINTELPRO and all that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think pound for pound, Adam Fitzgerald's one of the best living 9/11 researchers. And of course, I'm a little biased in that. I'm friends with him. I've had him on my show a bunch of times, but I trust the work that guy does. And anyone who asks me about 9/11, I point them towards Adam Fitzgerald and John Gold too. John Gold is a great researcher, and he's done the work, and he has advocated tirelessly for the families of 9/11.
Tireless advocation for the families, and also an anti-war guy,
Yeah. No, I've known John Gold. I've probably known him 16 years.
John's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
but yeah, man. Look, it's an ugly world, and if you're a truth seeker, the cream rises to the top. You know, you'll find the best information. You'll find the crack researchers. You'll find the best ways to use discernment and methods to suss out bullshit. But even still, man, it's a wilderness of mirrors, like Angleton said.
Always.
So,
and, you know, and especially because, look, in 2016, you know, we had a broadcaster out there tell us the globalists have been defeated. They have been defeated now because Trump is in office. Now it's over. The deep state will be destroyed. You know, and the frogs are gay.
Folks, he's John the Baptist. He was ordained by God, folks. I got a text message from God. He told me Trump's going to do this. He's your guy. He's an imperfect messenger, but he's the guy. He's a real deal. He's going to bring us back from the depths of Babylon and of hell. If we put Hillary Clinton in there, folks, you're looking at 1,000 years of darkness. Infowars.com/gayfrogs.
There you go. And everybody, look, for real, don't go to Infowars. But do go to Jackman Radio. He's on, you know, look, he's on Twitter. It's at Jackman Radio, right?
Yes.
And also, like you said, Podbean and all that. But you're pretty much on most of the podcatchers, aren't you? Like, you're out on Apple and everything too, right?
Yes. So Podbean, Spotify, Apple, iTunes.
Exactly.
Jackman Radio's on all those platforms.
Right. And I urge you, go to YouTube and look up Jackman Radio because the visuals are hilarious. And also the video where Trump calls him up on stage when he's dressed as Trump. Look, I know we just went over it and he does tired Trump so perfect. I love it. It's like Trump on his second rally.
He's between Five Guys and you know, KFC, and I'm just, you know, it's been a long day. Okay, the Ritalin kind of wore off. We ran out of Diet Coke. The Diet Coke is warm. And I'm not having a lot of fun. Melania wouldn't come on this trip with me. So it's just been a disaster, Chuck.
There it is. And this has not been a disaster. Eric Jackman's been my guest, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. No matter who you are, where you are, when you are, remember this. I am merely Ochelli, and all of you are indeed the effect. Look for Jackman Radio. Okay, on Twitter, look for him on all the podcatchers, and do go to YouTube for that. Not for me, but for him. Okay? Anyway, have a good night.